Hi guys, this is gsandon.com and I'm here with the Asus Zenfone 2. This handset was announced at CES 2015 this year, and it's the first mainstream phone that has 4GB of RAM on board, and also the first phone with 4GB of RAM that we're testing. Some people have that much RAM on their PCs, and here we go, we're with a handset that has 4GB of RAM. In USA it was launched on the 19th of May this year, so recently. It's a fresh product, and the price tag is $299 for the 4GB RAM version and $199 for the 2GB RAM version. And I have to say, those prices apply without contract, so they're very appealing. There are about 5 versions of the phone. We got the Zenfone 2 ZE551ML version here, which implies 4GB of RAM and the 2.3 GHz Intel Atom processor. Okay, so let's discuss the design. First things first, we got the red model here. The thickness will vary from 3.9mm up to 10.9mm. It's a phone that's curved from the left to the right. As you can see, it has a curved format, and it goes from 3.9mm to 10.9mm. It weighs 170 grams, which is basically almost the same as the iPhone 6 Plus, but also 2 grams lighter than the iPhone 6 Plus. There is a concentric circle pattern here in the facade area that's also replicated on the volume buttons placed at the back. The concentric circle is a trademark for Asus for its Zen series. And let's see what we got here. The back, although it's made of plastic, imitates metal through its texture and look. And this is a solid plastic material. It's not flimsy at all and feels like it could survive a drop in case it needs that. And the grip is quite good, and this product is actually a winner. It won the 2015 IF Design Award. It comes in 5 colors: black, gold, gray, red and white. And for the current year, 2015, the bezels are kind of big considering what phones are out there, like the Sharp phone or the LED TV phone. Anyway, thanks to its curved format, it sits perfectly in the user's hand, and this is basically a phablet if you look at the diagonal. One hand usage is pretty much okay. I can reach any area of the screen with a single finger, so that's very much okay. Now at the front we find the earpiece right here, front camera, notification LED here, and I'm betting there's some sensors here. Then we got the capacitive buttons below the screen, and then we move to the back where there's the main camera with a dual LED flash above it, the volume buttons placed at the back like on the LG phones, and I have a feeling this is a metallic volume button and it's quite comfy to the press. And then we got the speaker right here. This cover can be removed. In the unboxing it was pretty hard to remove, but it proves to be easier to remove now after getting used to the phone and perhaps weakening its mechanisms. Okay, here we go. Removing the cover, you can see here the 2 SIM slots and the microSD card slot. The battery is not removable, and there is a surprise here. Although the back cover shows us what seems to be a big speaker, the speaker is actually about 4 times smaller, which is this one here. Okay, we're done with the case, the back of the case and what's below the case. At the top we find the on-off button, a strange placement, a very slim button. Initially it was uncomfortable, but after using it for a few days I found it comfy to press it at the top like that. Okay, so on-off button, microphone and audio jack right here at the top. And then this is the top, on-off button, audio jack and microphone checked. At the bottom, another microphone and micro USB port checked. On the sides of the phone we have nothing whatsoever, as you can see. Since the volume buttons are at the back and the on-off button is at the top, I would call this design not revolutionary, but simple, comfortable and quite fashionable if you ask me. So a pretty okay design. Now as far as the hardware is concerned, this smartphone provides a 5.5-inch screen. It's a Full HD display, an IPS LCD, and inside the handset you will find a quad-core processor, the Intel Atom Z3580, clocked at 2.3 GHz. It's a 64-bit processor that's accompanied by 4GB of RAM of the Alpi DDR3 kind. The GPU is a PowerVR G6430 clocked at 533 MHz. The RAM I mentioned before is of the dual channel type, And then, as mentioned, there is a secondary version of the phone, the cheaper one, with 2 GB of RAM and an Intel Atom quad-core Z3560 processor clocked at a lower 1.8 GHz. Finally, the storage versions of the phone include 16, 32 or 64 GB, and the microSD card slot adds another 64 GB. The cameras, well, we got a 5 megapixel shooter for selfies, and we got a 13 megapixel shooter for main pictures. As far as the connectivity goes, well, we got LTE here. It's basically LTE category for plus, from what I understood. It goes up to 250 mega per second. There's also a special kind of Wi-Fi 802.11 AC that reaches up to 433 mega per second tops. Asus also detailed the navigational aspects of the phone. They're saying that this model supports 5 satellite systems like GPS, GLONASS and 3 more, and it's able to track up to a huge 60 satellites in the sky, which feels pretty impressive. There's also Bluetooth 4.0, NFC, dual micro SIM slots inside, and HSPA Plus with up to 42 mega per second download speed. The sensor list includes G sensor, e-compass, gyroscope, proximity, ambient light sensor, and I'm sure the Zen accelerometer inside. We have finally reached the battery, and this one is a 3000 mAh lithium polymer unit that we're dealing with here, and let's see how it fared in our tests. Okay, so we started testing, video HD playback in a loop, brightness at 200 lux, Wi-Fi on, and we started testing till the battery came close to ending its juice and gave us a total time of 7 hours and 30 minutes of HD video playback, which means we're managing to beat the HTC Desire 820 that achieved 7 hours and 13 minutes. We also beat the LG G Flex 2 that scored 4 hours and 7 minutes, but we fared below the Huawei Honor 6 Plus that scored 9 hours and 12 minutes. It's an okay time, but not groundbreaking. We also did a PC Mark test, and PC Mark involves a continuous usage pattern with brightness also 200 lux. So let's see how much we achieved there. In PC Mark, we scored 5 hours and 45 minutes, which is a pretty much okay result. We beat the Huawei P8 that scores 5 hours and 31 minutes, and the HTC Desire 820, we also beat it with its 5 hours and 25 minutes. Still, we fared below the Samsung Galaxy A5 with its 6 hours and 51 minutes. The charging of the Zenfone 2 will take us 1 hour and 50 minutes, which is pretty much okay. It's a bit more than the Galaxy Note 4 that need 1 hour and 40 minutes, and it's also certainly more than the OnePlus One that need 1 hour and 15 minutes. At least we beat the HTC One M9 that need 2 hours and 20 minutes. This handset also comes with the quick charge, or better said fast charge functionality, so it can reach 60% of the battery in only 39 minutes of charging, and with a single 10-minute charge it can offer you 4 hours of talk time. It's all courtesy of the 18-watt Boostmaster charger that has 2 modes of functioning, 2 amperes and 5 volts regular charging, and 2 amperes and 9 volts, which is the fast charging mode. And then there are the special battery settings available in the settings area. First of all, we got battery showing us stats and app usage, battery percentage and battery draining apps, and then we got the power management. Here you can access power saver, you can activate the feature and trigger one of the 3 settings. We got ultra saving mode, optimized mode and customized mode, but there are several extra options at the top. We got battery, that leads us here again, and we got hints for the ultra saving mode. So let's start with this one. Ultra saving mode will maximize the battery life by limiting the device performance and most of the background data. It has special settings here. There are the apps that are allowed to wake up the system, very few of them, in order to save a huge amount of juice. And then let's see the other ones. Optimized mode that optimizes the device's performance and battery life, and finally customized mode that allows you to tweak your experience. It allows you to turn on the ultra saving mode at certain levels, reduce brightness at certain levels, and select options related to IM and other applications draining up your battery. Okay, so those are pretty much the settings to look out for in the power saving area. There's also Auto Start Manager, which allows you to see which apps drain the memory and battery And overall, if I were to draw the line, I would say the battery is okay, but not groundbreaking. I like the fast charging feature most out of all the features. Now let's discuss the speaker at the back. On paper it looks big. If you remove the cover, it's much smaller, and this handset uses Sonic Master technology, and it has a sound chamber that's 25% larger than before, and also a 3-magnet construction according to Asus. Now let's see the music app. That should be here somewhere with the green icon. Here we go. This is the music app. It looks pretty simple, so to say. If you've ever seen a phone pad or a Zenfone, it's pretty much the same interface. The options available here include a sleep timer, and also include settings and an equalizer. That's the stock one. It's the stock one from Android. It adds nothing extra. You can get your content from the cloud, stream music, and that's pretty much it in the settings area. Now let's actually listen to some tunes. Let's turn up the volume using the back buttons, and here we go. Okay, so you get the idea. We got a pretty loud and crisp experience, good bass, a natural and warm sound, and in the songs that have voice, we got pretty good voice. There's also a feature called Audio Wizard. It's a trademark on Asus devices. This is it. It has special functioning modes. We got smart mode, music mode, movie mode, recording mode, gaming mode, and speech mode, each of them changing the sound of music. So let's hear them all in action. Okay, so we listen to all of them. Some highlight the voice, some highlight the treble or the bass, and one more thing. There is no muffling if you put the phone on a flat surface because it has a curved back. Okay, time to bring out the guns, and by guns I mean headphones. You saw them in the unboxing. They have a flat wire like a noodle and this small remote right here with a singular button from what I can see. A pretty simple design with the Asus branding on them. They're very comfy in the ear, they're tangle free, they're very loud, actually hugely loud. I recommend you sit at about 70% of volume the whole time, should be enough. Very good bass and very clean sound, but let's connect them and see what else we can figure out by connecting them. We obviously have FM radio on this device. You probably saw the app before. Now let's look it up, see where it's been. FM radio, actually a very nice looking interface. I was surprised by its quality. You can look up stations like that. The scanning happens very fast. A nice interface. It has RDS, it has speaker options, sleep timer, and band selection, so everything is fine on the radio front. Okay, so we're happy with the radio, we're happy with the headphones, even happy with the speaker, and I'll show you why in a minute. So if you go to the gallery, we have a decibel meter which we use for our tests, and here you go. We achieved 87.6 decibels at the front of the phone, and at the back it should reach around 88 or 89 decibels, which is a very good value. The Samsung Galaxy S6 reaches 89 decibels, Galaxy Note 4 89.5 decibels, and HTC One M9 86.9 decibels. So as long as we beat the HTC One M9, I would say we're doing very fine. So overall, a very good experience. Now it's time to analyze that portion of the device called display. Once again, 5.5 incher IPS LCD, Full HD, 403 ppi density. Asus praises the response time of this device, 60 milliseconds. It has smoother scrolling than other models out there. Other phones offer 80 or 100 milliseconds, well, 60 milliseconds here. It has 178-degree wide viewing angles, full lamination process for the screen, and Gorilla Glass 3 protection. It supports glove touching, and you will be able to use the gallery as your very own video player. Once you start playing a video, the interface is very simple and intuitive. Goes something like this. There is not much codec support, so XVID and DivX are a bit of a problem. And the actual experience brings out wide viewing angles, as you can see, typical for an IPS. The screen is bright but could be better. The colors are pretty realistic for an IPS. The blacks are also pretty deep for an IPS. The image is crisp. The contrast isn't very good, and the behavior in sunlight is also not very impressive. Initially, you could barely see the camera interface while taking pictures in the strong sun. However, with a software update received by the phone, things got a bit better, but still, there are times when you cannot see the interface very well when the sun is very bright. Now, as far as the pixels are concerned, this model has RGB striped pixels, which we put under the microscope. They look like this. We also pulled out the lux meter, and the initial result was disappointing, 263 lux. Then came the software update and we got 323 lux units, also not very impressive. You would have expected at least 400 lux. Just look at the Amazon Fire phone, which was a disappointing phone, 458 lux, Galaxy S6, 475 lux, HTC One M9 also disappointed, but 362 lux. We wanted a bit more brightness from the screen. Of course, our current brightness allows us to play games and watch videos without a problem, but when the sun is strong, you really need more lux. In the settings area, you can go to the display and tweak brightness level, font style and size, wallpaper, sleep, LED indicator, and finally screen color mode with a few sub options. You can play with the color temperature by using this slider, make the image more or less saturated, and then we got the screen color modes. We got balanced, we got reading with its very own slider, and we got vivid, and then customized that brings out two more sliders for hue and saturation. It's a good idea to keep everything standard unless you want to do a bit of reading. Overall, the screen could be brighter, but we like the good colors and the wide viewing angles. Now it's time to analyze the big old camera at the back. There are some technical data I want to share with you. This is a 13 megapixel shooter here with Pixel Master technology, f2.0 aperture. It has a Toshiba sensor in the mix, 5 lenses, a dual tone flash above the camera, 1.12 micron pixels, and the sensor measures 1/3 of an inch. The front camera, it's a 5 megapixel OmniVision sensor, 1/5 of an inch, 1.12 micron pixels, f2.0 aperture. And now it's time to delve into the user interface. If you've ever seen a phone pad, Zenfone, Memo Pad, or a new Asus device from the past 2 years, the interface will feel right at home, minimalistic, simple, and a bit old school, typical Zen UI stuff from phone pads and Zenfos. The startup of the camera app is not very fast, as you just saw. We got recommendations on the screen, and on the left side of the screen we got the flash options, auto, on or off. We got the front camera shortcut, and finally the settings, which I will babble about for many minutes because there are many of them. White balance, ISO going up to 800, exposure, optimization going on in auto, off or manual mode, which includes saturation, contrast, sharpness, noise reduction, backlight, and detail enhancement. Okay, then we got camera resolution, 13 megapixels, which means 4096 over 3072 pixels in 4:3, or 10 megapixels in 4096 over 2304 in 16:9. Then we got anti-shake enhancement, image quality, which can be fine or standard, touch shutter, self-timer, fast for the burst. Burst can be set to turbo, fast, slow, or off. We got focus modes, smart autofocus, continuous autofocus, and infinity. Metering mode, center weight or average. Touch auto exposure, face detection, white balance, those are the video options by the way. Exposure and video quality, full HD or HD. Video stabilization is also in the mix, which drops the resolution automatically to HD and leaves it at that, so keep that in mind. Video preference, performance or quality, and then some basic options like smart brightness, guidelines, burst, shutter animation, camera sound, anti-flicker, power saving, volume keys, and all of that. On the right side of the screen, we got the shutter button, gallery shortcut, video button, and finally the modes. And there are a ton of modes to play with here. We got auto, that is very good at auto detecting the situations, it feels that there's a need for an HDR or night mode, and then the manual mode that brings several extra options. We got a histogram, we got this mechanism for centering the pics, and then we got these nifty little sliders that allow you to take a more professional picture. We got options for white balance with a slider here for the various degrees of temperature, kelvins, exposure, also a slider, ISO, shutter speed, and contrast. There's a macro option, there's a landscape option, there's also auto, obviously. Other than that, you can go to settings again and you will see more options available here. So that's pretty much the manual mode in a nutshell. We've also got HDR here that pretty much speaks for itself. We got beautification that will bring out extra options. One that makes your cheeks thinner, eye enhanced, blush. There's also skin softening and a variety of other options with a slider here to tweak every aspect of a person's face. Then there's this mode, it's called super resolution. It combines 4 13 megapixel shots into an ultra detailed picture. It's basically a 50 megapixel shot, as you can see here, 51 megapixels, 8192 over 6144 in 4:3 or less in 16:9. A very impressive shot with very impressive details. Other modes, there's low light, there's night mode, there's depth of field that basically will blur the background and highlights the foreground, or blurs the foreground to highlight the background. We also got effects with a few to play with here, some more playful, some more serious. Then we got selfie, which allows you to take shots of up to 4 persons or more. It will find the faces, and when it does find the faces, the timer starts automatically. We got GIF animation, we got panorama, we got miniature. Miniature basically creates focused area on the screen, either a line or a circle, which you can actually move or enhance. This area will be clear, everything around it will be blurry, and you can increase or decrease the level of blur of the background or foreground. So that's pretty much it. Miniature is sort of a depth of field, only without the focusing. There is also time rewind. It starts taking pictures a bit before you press the shutter. Then you choose the best photo and you can rewind the time and see what you missed if someone blinked or smiled. Okay, we also have smart remove to remove a person from the shot, all smiles. That's basically a best shot with smiles. And finally, time lapse. If we go to the front camera, let's go to auto for now. So if we go to the front camera, you'll be able to take selfies and you'll have basically the same options in the main settings area, but the modes will be different. We got selfie panorama, auto, night, HDR, effect, low light, GIF animation, beautification, and time lapse. And by the way, the front camera is able to film in full HD video, which is quite impressive. Okay, now the actual photo taking experience. I have to say that the auto mode is very useful. It adapts to the situation very fast. It makes recommendations of HDR or night mode. The focus is also pretty fast, but picture taking is actually kind of slow compared to what other models can do. There's a little extra time after pressing the shutter button till it actually reaches the gallery, which I would call a bit slow. The zoom is pretty fluid, as you can see. And if you keep the screen pressed, you will activate autofocus, auto white balance, and auto exposure locked on this area, and you can play with an exposure slider that reminds me a bit of iOS. Okay, so it's time to take the picture and quickly analyze it. Okay, so a bit of camera like here. As you can see, all details look great. It's a basic 30 megapixel shot in auto mode. Perfect lighting, perfect exposure, no problems here. There are ideal conditions here, but let's see how ideal were the shots taken during daylight. We have a bunch of galleries, we have a huge amount of pictures, we have 275 pictures. If you're asking me, we have too many pictures to test this phone, in spite of it being a pretty good phone. Okay, so they're loading right now. We have exaggerated with the shots. We took shots on a sunny day before the software update, and then at night, and then during the daytime on a cloudy day after the software update. So let's start with the first shots. First things first, we got realistic colors, good level of detail, and this is a sample of HDR. This HDR on the Zenfone 2 is quite unique. Other HDRs only increase the brightness. This HDR will also enhance everything. It makes everything more interesting, the color more vivid, and the details more bright than usual. So basically, the normal shot is a bit dark, and the HDR shot is a bit more impressive and a bit more lit up. Then we tried some macros, and because the screen was under the full sunlight, we couldn't see what we were pressing, and a few unsuccessful attempts at the macro were made till we finally made a decent macro that actually looks good, but not better than the flower pictures that really highlight the macro abilities of the phone. Once again, good colors, good details, and good HDR. And the analysis of pictures goes on. We got great texture in this graffiti right here, as you can see. Also great texture here and here. And this is a shot under the bridge. This is a regular picture number 1. Picture with HDR, slightly enhancing the experience a bit. And then we've got a picture with the low light option on that decreases the resolution but enhances the details. And finally night mode that makes the image a bit more blurry but at the same time increases brightness. Okay, this is where we tested the zoom, regular shot, and then zoomed in, losing quite a bit of detail here. And then a bit more texture, and we got selfies here. I have to say that the quality is quite good. The skin texture is okay, maybe a bit too bright for my liking. Other than that, pretty much okay selfie for a 5 megapixel shooter. Landscape shot with the details being pretty much okay. And a shot of some ducks. Once again testing the colors and testing landscape shots. It became a cloudy day out of nowhere, and the colors and brightness remained quite good, as well as the exposure, white balance, and all that. We're enjoying the greens here. More color testing, more texture, this time some close-ups of these colorful items, and a bit of a macro here that actually succeeded. There were 2 options for taking macros. We resorted to either the manual mode, setting it up on macro, or the auto mode that offers pretty good results. And more shots, more colors. We tested the shutter, catching the water drops, and then it was the time to take some macros of flowers, and this camera was very impressive in that aspect. We got roses, realistic colors, clear shots. In case you're wondering what's the deal with this blurry shot or this one, well, once again, the sun was very bright and I couldn't see what was displayed on the screen. Excellent flower macros, excellent detail, and great colors. So if you want close-ups, good close-ups, the Zenfone 2 is the phone to look at. We also play with the effects, as you can see here. We tested some of them, and let's see more of these things. You can add hearts to the screen. You can change it to this effect. One more selfie. This is actually a panorama selfie, so I caught it in a widescreen option. There's more stuff behind me than the regular shot. Another good shot here, more flowers, and these images are looking quite hot. Okay, other than that, we also have a panorama, just in case you were wondering what the panorama looks like. The resolution is quite high, the quality is decent, although I've seen better colors in other panoramas. It feels a bit washed out. Okay, and let's see what we got here. We have another series of shots taken in another town on a cloudier day. I told you we have too many pictures. Another attempt at a panorama, and this one is actually bigger. Good details, some strange exposure here, and this cut is a bit sudden. Anyway, the panorama looks decent, so to say. Some more shots, close-ups, good colors, good lighting and exposure, no objections here. I don't want to bore you because there are so many shots, but this time it's a cloudy day and the camera has an excuse. Once again, strange exposure. Sometimes out of nowhere the image becomes whitish. It has a whitish hue on top of it, but other times excellent colors, excellent macros. We got a few examples here that really stand out. These are actually calendar material, if you ask me. Overall, the shots during daytime are crisp, they're good. Some of them are too bright, but other than that, I'm pretty happy with it. Aside from the moments I couldn't see the screen because of the display. And then we updated the phone to the latest software and did some more shots trying to find out if the camera problems were solved. So this is a regular shot. This is the shot with HDR, and then we also have a shot where we use that special resolution mode. Let's see if it's this one. Okay, so this is it. As you can see, huge resolution, 8192 over 6144. So that's impressive. Since we have a 50 megapixel shot, let's play with the zoom and increase the details a lot here, which is exactly what we're doing. So the 51 megapixel shot looks impressive, and after the update I feel that the overexposure is gone. The shots remain crisp. You can actually see this ant very well on the rows. One of the best macros I've ever taken, and I'm pretty happy that the overexposition is gone, although some of the pictures looked cartoonish for some unknown reason, so the camera isn't exactly perfect, but the shots look a bit better after the update, so we're happy with that. Okay, we also did some tests at night. First photo taken at night shows a very powerful flash, and a bit too powerful sometimes. However, the shots without flash were actually, I would dare to say, better than the ones with flash. Pretty clear. Here we got good colors and good detail. Too powerful flash. This is a decent shot. And you can see here that we don't have that problem with halos around the light. The halos are pretty small here, but we have something called diffraction with this thread of light going up. And here we tested several modes of the camera at night. Regular shot, flash shot, special low light mode, and nighttime. It may not be impressive, but the details sure are, in spite of the brightness not being very high. Clarity is very good. In this scenery I actually used the Galaxy S6 in exactly the same place, and this image is actually a bit more clear than the Galaxy S6 in spite of the diffraction of the light. Good colors, as you can see here, pretty good detail, especially if you're playing with the low light and night mode. But if you use the flash, you get problems like this, blurry shots, which is not exactly okay. So overall, if you want to draw some conclusions after so many pictures, I would say we have perfect macros, an immersive super resolution picture. When you start to zoom in, there will be a lot to be desired in landscape shots and even the panorama. The focus is okay, the colors are good, and there's some overexposure happening here. The diffraction at night, and the screen made us take some blurry shots because we pressed the wrong stuff on it. So keep that in mind. Good details, good macros, impressive super resolution, and colors pretty much okay. Since this model has a Toshiba camera sensor, I feel the need to compare it to the HTC One M9, also with a Toshiba sensor. That one has a higher resolution. I have to say that I feel that in most times this model is a bit superior to the HTC One M9. It's pretty close to the performance of the Galaxy S5 from last year, minus the overexposure. It's clearly below the Galaxy S6, which I've seen compared to it before I tested it. Now it's time to check out the videos, and let's see how we do that on this device, because we have a lot of videos to see here. Okay, so we filmed in Full HD, 30 frames per second, MP4, bitrate of 15 mega per second, and I have to say from the start that every shot I saw felt a bit buggy, so I expect a software update to solve all of the problems. So let's start with this one. Some of the shots do not feel like Full HD at all. They feel like 480p, 720p. We got stabilization problems. The quality drops sometimes. We got strange exposure and violent exposure changes, overexposure, bleak colors, some motion blur, and it's an underwhelming experience. Here we tried out the stabilization, and as you can see, the image is pretty choppy here. So once the device tries to stabilize the image, it ends up deforming the image. Of course, it doesn't have optical image stabilization, so you cannot blame it for that. Another shot, strange exposure, decent quality, but not exactly on Full HD level. Acoustics are pretty much okay. And let's try maybe another video. We also have an impressive number of videos, so we really tried, but the filming was underwhelming, with overexposure and the lack of details being the main problems. Decent colors, strange exposure. It really feels like there's a software bug here and needs to be an update to solve it. Okay, and there was an update at some point, and then we tried out the camera some more in an attempt to see if everything has changed, and let's see this video. It feels just a bit better, maybe 10% or 15%, but still there's that vibe, there's that cartoonish, unrealistic vibe to the image. It's a cloudy day, the shot is dark as you can see, but the stabilization and level of detail are underwhelming, that's clear. I don't even have to show you the nighttime shots, they were pretty poor. Even the one with flash started off well, ended up laggy and grainy for some reason. So overall the photo taking was impressive. I even dared to compare the phone to the HTC One M9 and Galaxy S5, while the video taking doesn't even deserve a comparison because it's buggy and we really look forward to another update. Okay, now let's discuss the gallery because it has a few interesting features. The gallery has two interesting features. It has this one here. It creates a movie automatically from your shots. You select them, you press next, and just like Zoe, you create a movie, you select some themes, you hear a song in the background, Dear Mom, tracks, kids, romance, city, Christmas. You can edit the order, music, add a subtitle, reset all, so you can create a beautiful collage or video of your endeavors. There's also this one, which is actually a collage option. That one was the collage, it was more of a summing up video. And these are collage options. We got text, we got various setups for your collage. We even have a few stickers to add, and that's pretty much the stuff we'll be playing with in the gallery. And speaking of the gallery, you wouldn't have photos without photo editing. So let's select this beautiful shot of the rose with the ant and press this button. This one usually applies to faces. You can soften skin, brighten, make big eyes, blush or thin cheeks, or you can use these options, pretty much the stock ones: filters, frames, crop, state and rotate and all that, and finally auto color, exposure, vignette, contrast, shadows and more. Now if you want to talk about the performance, we're obviously going to address the temperature at some point. So let's see what we're dealing with here. After playing the game Riptide GP2 for 15 minutes, we reached a temperature of 37.6 degrees Celsius, and thus there's no overheating here. Now as far as the web browser is concerned, this is the device's stock browser, and when I say stock I mean the Asus web browser. It's not Chrome, but it has a few elements that resemble Chrome. So let's access gsm.com, which loads pretty fast here. Smooth scrolling and extra smooth thanks to that 60 millisecond touch technology. We also got pinch to zoom, and the text clarity is also pretty good. So fast loading, that's what you should remember. We got a virtual keyboard here. It's pretty big, also pretty well spaced. There's a numeric row. It's fast to type on, and if I'm not mistaken, it should also have a bit of swipe thing going on here. Other than that, there's also an option to add a page to the Do It Later application, which I'm going to discuss later, and this is the tabs menu from the browser. Moving forward to the phone section, this is the dialer in case you're wondering, and we also have a few options like edit tabs, full screen dial pad, block list, speed dial, call recordings, dual SIM card settings, and there's also smart dial, block list, and the calls are loud and clear, but the ringtone doesn't have a very high volume. By the way, only one of the SIMs is able to offer data connectivity, the first one as far as I know. And now we have reached that part of the review where we check out the benchmarks. I thought long and hard about what models to compare this device to. I decided to choose the flagships from last year and a more recent higher end device. So the Asus Zenfone 2 is dueling with the Samsung Galaxy S5, the Huawei P8, HTC One M8, and this is a battle between a quad-core 64-bit Intel Atom processor and 4GB of RAM, with two phones that have Snapdragon 801 processors from last year and 2GB of RAM, as well as the Huawei P8 with an octa-core 64-bit Kirin processor and 3GB of RAM. So, the results. quadrant gave us 23,854 points, so we beat the Galaxy S5 by about 1000 points. We beat the Huawei P8 by 10,000 points, and the HTC One M8 beat us by about 1000 points or even a few hundred points. In Antutu, let's see our score. The final score was 47,142, Galaxy S5 had 34,000, the Huawei P8 48,000, and the HTC One M8 34,000. And then there is also Nenamark with a score of 59.7 frames per second. Galaxy S5 had 60.1 frames per second, Huawei P8 60.4 frames per second, and HTC One M8 59.3 frames per second. Velamo gave us a pretty good result of 3686 points, while the Galaxy S5 had only 1645, Huawei P8 2849, and HTC One M8 1716. There's also 3D Mark. Let's see its score. In iStorm Unlimited we had 13,247, while the Galaxy S5 had 18,632, Huawei P8 12,000, and HTC One M8 17,570. Geekbench is also on the list. Geekbench 3, 916 in the single core test, 2845 in the multi-core one. Galaxy S5 had 854 with 2553, while the Huawei P8 867 over 3588, and finally HTC One M8 979 and 2900, so pretty close to this one. And let's see other benchmark results. GFX is also in the mix. And in the 1080p T-Rex off-screen test we had 1398 frames, while the Galaxy S5 has 1500, Huawei P8 has 958, and HTC One M8 1589. We also did a speed test to see how the Wi-Fi is handling the pressure, and I was a bit underwhelmed here. At first the results were very unimpressive, 12 megapixel and 14 in download and upload, then they increased a bit, but this didn't impress us either. So 16 and 19 megapixel, Galaxy S5 23 and 24, Huawei P8 26 and 21, and HTC One M8 20 and 20. As far as the browsing is concerned, the results are a bit better, and by this I mean BrowserMark gave us 1846, while the Galaxy S5 had a huge 3250, and the Huawei P8 854, while the HTC One M8 2607 points. There's also SunSpider here, 728 points here, the lower the better. Galaxy S5 had actually 413, Huawei P8 930, and HTC One M8 673. So yes, it can be better. Basemark X in the medium quality test, 17,376 points, Galaxy S5 had 23,000, Huawei P8 13,474, and HTC One M9 26,000 points. So overall I have to say that out of all these tests, these 11 tests, this model wins 4 out of 11 in front of the Galaxy S5, 8 out of 11 in front of the Huawei P8, and 3 out of 11 in front of the HTC One M8. It's very close to the performance of the Snapdragon 801 devices from last year, the flagships from last year, and it has no lag in the interface. Obviously you can totally multitask it, you can open up more games at the same time, and you can run games with 3D graphics with no problem, such as this one. I would even dare to call this phone future-proof. And when I say future-proof, I mean it has 4 GB of RAM and a powerful 64-bit processor, so in the couple of years that follow, it should be able to run new games without a hassle, even the high-end ones, and also multitask them. Nice lighting, nice water effects, intuitive controls, and a pretty nice speed sensation. This is a benchmark game, we're always using it, never gets old. It's a bit like Crysis is for the PCs, Riptide GP2 is for the phones, a benchmark game. You can totally upgrade its details, and enjoy its graphics. Okay, so we're done with the gaming, looks fine, works fine, no lag whatsoever. And now I want to discuss OS and UI. First of all, let's see what we're dealing with here. We're running Android 5.0 Lollipop with the Zen UI experience on top, which feels familiar if you've ever used a memo pad, phone pad, or even an older Zenfone model. Some of the UI parts are pure Lollipop with some minor alterations, but overall the interface has been slightly tweaked, especially in the color section. So as I said, familiar items like the multitasking. It's a carousel, just like in Lollipop, only this time we have these three extra icons. We got this one that shows us how much RAM we're using, and we also got this one that allows us to pin apps, activate screen pinning and pin an application to the screen straight from the multitasking area, and this one that closes everything up. So that's the familiar part, the carousel for multitasking. And then we got the drop down section that's pure Lollipop. And when I say pure Lollipop, I mean that we have both the notifications and the quick settings in the same area, only separated by an extra gesture, as you can see. Okay, and in the quick settings area, you will see something familiar like the connectivity options, but also the boost, calculator, flashlight, auto rotate, we got smart saving, balance mode, Bluetooth, NFC, one-hand operation, and of course they can be customized however you want to. Overall, the UI is colorful but also flat and not glossy. We have many unique widgets. We got this what's next widget that's looking hot, this task widget that feels familiar also, and you can see more here. Very good looking, very minimalistic and based on shades of blue and green. We got widgets for the weather, for what's next, for boosts, for super note, photo frame, do it later, and other such things. Once again, very nice looking and minimalistic. If you swipe up like I did right now, or keep this button pressed, or simply keep the screen pressed, so you got three gestures, you will trigger an area called Manage Home, which allows you to tweak the experience radically. So we got apps and widgets, which pretty much speaks for itself, it's a shortcut. And then we got edit pages, which allows you to edit the home screens, add new ones, remove ones, and set a main one. And then we got wallpapers, also speaking for itself. We also got icon packs, which increases customizability. You can download more if you want to. Then we got scroll effects, including classic, revolving, card flip, windmill, fan, cube, and others. And then there are the themes that you can apply. All of them good looking, variation is pretty big here, and more will come in the future. Other than that, we got preferences with quite an impressive amount of options here. We got a scrollable wallpaper, transparent status bar, background transparency, which can actually be set up with this slider, and a few more features like change scroll animation, icon packs, folder style, font options, select font, font size, and other things like that. And finally, we got the system settings and the more section also related to fonts. So a high degree of customization on this model. Now I want to discuss about the settings, and you can access them here. We got settings for connectivity, for dual SIM. Once again, only SIM number one handles data, the other one handles the phone calls, and that's pretty much it. Other things we're mentioning, well, call settings, data usage, display, Zen motion involves touch gesture, motion gestures, and one hand mode that can be activated with a double tap of the home key. So let's try it. Basically, I made the screen smaller, so it's like I'm using a 4-inch phone or a 4.7-inch phone with this mode. I can move it in every area of the screen, and that's what that feature is all about. Okay, so Zen motion is this one. I'm going to deactivate this quick trigger. And then we got some other notifications. We got do not disturb here with events, reminders, and alarms. And finally, there's a Asus cover, set of special options for an accessory, a nifty accessory that comes especially for the Zenfone 2. You can see some of the features on its round screen, but let me show you the device, the accessory better said. This is it. It's actually called the Flip View Cover Deluxe for the Asus Zenfone 2. It reminds me a bit of the LG Quick Circle because it has this circle here. It's made of plastic, the circle I mean, and the material here is pretty strong. If I'm not mistaken, it's a combination of polyurethane and polycarbonate, so let's actually attach it First you have to remove the back cover, as far as I know. And with that out of the way, you can attach it to the device. And then you'll get all the joy of this circular area. As you can see, the interface has changed and may feel a bit like you're using a smartwatch of sorts. So there's a lot of swiping going on here. You can access the camera if you want to, and you can also see the weather with more details. You can see your events that are scheduled and your calendar. You can activate the torch, set up sound communications and do not disturb features. And at the end, where you're in the main menu, you can actually use this circular mechanism to cycle around the features. Very nice look. As far as I know, you can access up to 7 apps here. I've heard they are customizable. This case weighs 50 grams, measures 14.7 millimeters in thickness, and it's made of polyurethane and polycarbonate. It costs around $20 as far as I know. So I guess it's time to remove it. And once again, pretty user friendly and pretty nice looking, so it's a solid purchase if you have the phone. Okay, so let's remove it. This is not the only accessory that Asus has prepped for the Zenfone 2, so you see another one pretty soon. Apparently as hard to remove as the original cover, so let's keep at it. And that's the winning sound. Okay, here we go, putting this on the side, getting back to the red case. A lot of little prongs here to prop up the case. Okay, I guess we're set, and we're back to the settings area to see what's left. Not this, but this. Okay, so as I said, do not disturb, Asus cover, storage, apps, users, battery, power management, and Asus customized settings. That includes the option to tap and hold to show the menu for the recent app key, screenshot file format, glove mode, app installation settings, quick settings options, and that's pretty much it. Other options, we got location. You can increase the accuracy of your tracking. We got an easy mode. If children or the elderly are using the phone, a more intuitive interface. We got lock screen as well. We got security, accounts, date and time accessibility, printing, and a special option for updating the software of the device. One app at a time, one system app at a time. Asus browser, Pixel Master camera, file manager, everything can be updated from the Play Store ahead of a major update, which is kind of nice. Once again, I like the interface. I find it to be a pleasing extra added on top of Lollipop. And now I want to discuss the selection of apps. From the start, I have to say this phone has a huge amount of bloatware, and here we go. This folder contains the typical Google apps. We got Chrome, Gmail, Google+, Maps, Play Suite. We got YouTube, Photos, Hangouts, and Docs. There's also something called Apps for You. It includes Clean Master. I just moved Zen UI around by mistake. Anyway, Apps for You includes Clean Master, Games, TripAdvisor, Dr. Safety, Amazon Kindle, and Zen UI. By the way, Dr. Safety is an antivirus in case you didn't know. Clean Master is actually useful. It cleans your cache and your memory. We got Asus support, pretty much speaks for itself. Audio Wizard, Auto Start Manager, which has the purpose of stopping apps that auto start and eat up your memory. Then we got Backup, Browser, Calculator, Calendar, with some Lollipop design elements, Camera, Clock, Contacts, Data Transfer, and something called Do It Later, which allows you to create a list of things to do, which you can add here. You can add web pages, you can add memos, you can add calls, texts, and emails that you want to read or send later if you don't have the time to do that now. There's also downloads, email, file manager, flashlight, FM radio, gallery. We got a kids mode with a special parental control and a pin, messaging, mini movie, which you saw earlier in the photo section. We got a mirror, music, my Asus, which is basically your management of your own account. And then we got Party Link, which allows you to share pictures to a nearby device. We also got PC link that allow you to send your content to mirror your screen of your phone on the PC. We got phone and we got photo collage, which you also saw earlier, plus this magazine option that's pretty cool. And the photo effects that you can play with, also pretty cool. Continuing the list of apps, we also got Play Store, Power Saver, Quick Memo, that pretty much speaks for itself. You can take a memo, change its colors, also share it, memo it later, so it will be added to your list. You can also make it smaller and make it float on the screen in order not to bother you. We got Remote Link, which allows you to turn your device into a remote for your PC. We got Settings, Setup Wizard, and Share Link, which allows you to pair with a nearby device and share files quickly. Sound Recorder, Splendid, which is the customization of the screen you saw before. Super Note, which is basically note-taking app on steroids. You got a blank notebook, you can use a bunch of templates. You start your notebook, and there are many options for pens. You can draw, you can write, you can save the page, you can insert stuff, picture, text, audio file, video, timestamp, stamp, and shapes. So basically it's a pretty solid rival to the Samsung S Note. You can doodle, you can scribble, you can handwrite, you can do anything and create a multimedia note that's top notch. And we move further to the system update, themes, weather, web storage, what's next. What's next is basically a timeline of what's coming that integrates the calendar, your VIP contacts, emails, and other things. We got Zen Circle, which from what I've heard is a social networking app that sends you to the Play Store. We got these productivity apps, we got Omelette Chat, Zen Talk, and then we got Live Water and Up, which are also two apps that you're going to have to download from what I know. This is a wallpaper basically, and this one is a fitness application. Okay, so this is pretty much all we have here on this device. A lot of apps, so bloatware, and we showed you an accessory. It's time to show you the second one. It's this one here. It was introduced with the Zenfone 2. It's called the Asus Zen Power. It's a very nice looking battery made of aluminum. It's credit card sized, at least as you can see at the front. It's an external battery for the Zenfone 2, but not only, you can use it with any device. It has micro USB and full USB port. It has this on off button here, 4 LEDs to show the status of the battery. Its capacity is 10,050 mAh. It measures 22 millimeters in thickness. It weighs 215 grams. The input is 5 volts and 2 amperes. The output is 5.1 volts and 2.4 amperes. It's a lithium ion unit, and it's elegant. It charges the Zenfone 2 a bit over 2 times from full capacity till it runs out, and the Nexus 7 can be charged from this model at about 1.5 times. Made of aluminum, temperature protected, short circuit protected. It comes with 4 white LEDs here, a variety of colors. This is the black version, and the Zenfone 2 requires 2 hours and a half to get charged completely from this battery. So the time is a bit long, but it's well worth it. It's a compact unit, much more compact than what the competition is offering. Once again, you can charge other devices, not only Asus models, and it has a capacity of a bit over 10,000 mAh. This concludes the review. This is it with the Zenfone 2. It's time for the big verdict. On the Pro side, we got a solid and good looking phone with a nice user interface. We also have good acoustics that nobody can complain about, very good headphones, a battery that I would call okay, fantastic macros and pretty good pictures, especially after the update, a huge amount of camera modes and options, including that Pro mode, which is a new thing from Asus. We got a strong performance. You can compete with any flagship from last year and some from this year. We got great multitasking. You can even trigger a bunch of high-end games and run them at the same time. This is a future-proof phone with a 64-bit processor and 4 GB of RAM. The price is good for starters, and imagine if it drops. We got okay selfies and not bad for the low light and nighttime capture. On the con side, we have 4 big drawbacks here, so only 4 things that are on the cons list. We got the video capture, that's totally underwhelming. We didn't even compare that to other devices. We hope a software update will fix it. So filming is on the blacklist. The screen brightness could be higher. The overexposed pics of the main camera are also a problem, and finally the bloatware is the fourth aspect we didn't like. So the grades, I'm going to go ahead and give this model a 9 out of 10 for design, and next up for the hardware an 8.7. Here it lost some points for the filming and the screen. And finally OS and UI 9.3 out of 10, an extra grade for the price, a solid 10 out of 10 for the price. And the final grade for this phone is 9.25 out of 10 here at gsmdom.com. I have faith that the camera will be receiving a special software update to solve its problems, and maybe the screen will get brighter as well. This is a mid-range to high-end phone. It's a future-proof device. It's good for games, it's good for pictures and music, and it's a flagship replacement. If you don't have the money or the stomach for a flagship, you will get the next best thing, the Asus Zenfone 2, which gets a 9.25 out of 10 for some pretty solid designing and pretty solid bunch of specs. That's it from gsmdom.com. Bye bye.